There's something ancient, something terrifyingly real about the idea that what you do comes back to you. It's not just some abstract spiritual notion, some poetic justice crafted to make us feel better about the unfairness of life. No, it's far more fundamental than that. It's the very structure of reality itself. Look around you. The world operates on patterns, cycles, cause and effect. You drop a stone into a pond and the ripples spread outward. You plant a seed in fertile soil and a tree grows. But plant poison, plant deception, plant destruction. What do you think will grow from that? Something twisted, something dark, something that will come back for you. And here's the thing. It may not come today. It may not come tomorrow. But it will come, because that's how reality works. People think they can cheat the system. They think they can lie, manipulate, betray, exploit, and somehow walk away untouched. But the world doesn't forget. God doesn't forget. Because the universe is structured in such a way that every action you take carves itself into the future. And you don't escape it. Look at history. Look at the tyrants, the oppressors, the corrupt. Where are they now? They build their towers of power on the backs of the weak, thinking themselves untouchable. But then the walls crack, the ground shakes, and suddenly everything they've built collapses. It's inevitable. The seeds of destruction were planted in their own actions. And what about you? You think you can take shortcuts, speak deceitfully, hurt others to get ahead? You think you can escape judgment? No, no one does. Maybe you think you're clever. Maybe you think you're invincible. But time is patient. The reckoning always comes. But here's the good news. The terrifying, wonderful truth. The same principle applies in the other direction. If you act with integrity, if you build instead of destroy, if you lift others up instead of dragging them down, then over time, the world starts to work in your favor. The universe bends toward you. God takes note. And the rewards, though they may take time, are real. So ask yourself, what are you sowing? Are you planting the seeds of your own downfall? Or are you constructing a future where you can stand tall, unafraid, knowing that what's coming back to you is strength, honor, and something truly worth having? Because whether you like it or not, karma's coming. God makes them reap what they sow, and that includes you. So sow wisely. You don't get away with anything, ever. You might think you do. You might convince yourself that the consequences of your actions can be dodged, delayed, or ignored. But that's not how the structure of reality works. Every single thing you do is recorded, embedded into the very fabric of existence. And people like to believe they can manipulate the system, that they can cut corners, lie, betray, step on others to get ahead, and somehow slip through the cracks unnoticed. But the cracks don't lead to escape. They lead downward, into something dark, something you don't see until it's too late. Because every action is a seed, and you don't get to choose whether it grows. You only get to choose what kind of seed you plant. Think about it. The world is built on cycles, on the principle of cause and effect. You touch fire, you burn. You plant poison, you don't get a garden. You get death. And yet people think they can live dishonestly and avoid the inevitable repercussions. That's arrogance. That's delusion. And it's the kind of thinking that leads straight to ruin. Look at your own life. Every mistake you've made, every selfish decision, every betrayal, it follows you. It lingers. And if you don't acknowledge it, if you don't take responsibility, it doesn't just disappear. It festers. It grows into something monstrous, something that waits for the perfect moment to strike back. And then suddenly the consequences arrive and you wonder how you got here. But deep down, you already know. But here's the real challenge. This law doesn't just apply to the bad, it applies to the good too. Because just as you can create destruction, you can create something remarkable. You can plant discipline, you can plant honesty, you can plant strength. And while it may take time, while it may feel like the results aren't immediate, eventually they return to you, bigger, stronger, more powerful than you ever imagined. So be careful what you plant, be careful what you do. Because karma is not just an idea. It's not a fairy tale. It's a law woven into the very nature of existence. And whether you believe it or not, it's coming. There's a structure to reality, a deep, undeniable pattern that governs everything around you. It's not random. It's not chaotic. It's ordered, precise, and inescapable. And that structure demands that every action has a consequence, cause and effect. This is the foundation of existence itself. You can see it in nature. You plant a seed, it grows. You neglect a crop, it withers. The world doesn't care about your excuses, your intentions, or what you meant to do. It responds to what you actually do. That's how life works. And it applies to everything. You lie, you erode trust. You betray someone. You invite betrayal into your own life. You act with laziness. You watch your potential decay. It's not a matter of luck or belief, it's law. Now, people love to fight against this. They love to believe they're the exception, that they can throw chaos into the world and somehow receive order in return. But that's delusion. That's the kind of thinking that destroys lives. Because when you act wrongly, when you violate the fundamental principles of honesty, responsibility, and discipline, you don't get to decide whether or not there's a consequence. The consequence will come. It's only a question of when. And here's where it gets terrifying. The effects of your actions don't always show up immediately. Sometimes they wait, they accumulate, they gather weight and momentum like an avalanche forming at the peak of a mountain. And by the time you realize what's happening, it's too late to outrun it. That's what makes karma so relentless. It doesn't just strike, it builds up, it magnifies. And when it finally arrives, it's far worse than you ever imagined. But here's the other side of it, the part most people ignore. If destruction compounds, so does growth. If you start doing the right thing, even in small ways, those actions don't disappear, they build, they ripple outward. And over time, they transform not just your life, but the lives of everyone around you. Every disciplined choice, every act of honesty, every sacrifice, it plants a seed for something stronger, something that will return to you in ways you can't yet see. So understand this. Reality is structured in a way that you can't escape the consequences of your actions. The seeds you plant today determine the life you will live tomorrow. And if you think you can cheat that, if you think you can twist the system to serve your own selfish desires without paying the price, you're setting yourself up for a reckoning. Because karma is not just a concept. It's not just an idea. It's the mechanism by which the universe restores balance. And when the time comes, it will make sure you reap exactly what you've sown. People think they can outsmart the system. They think they can manipulate, deceive, exploit, and somehow escape the consequences. But here's the brutal truth. No one cheats reality. No one. You might think you've gotten away with something. Maybe you cut corners, betrayed someone's trust, or built success on dishonesty. And at first, it seems like it worked. No punishment, no immediate backlash, maybe even convinced yourself that this is how the world works. Survival of the fittest, right? The clever outmaneuver the naive, the ruthless rise while the good suffer. But that's an illusion, because the cost doesn't always come right away. It builds, it waits. And then, just when you think you've won, it strikes. Look at history. Look at the people who thought they could manipulate their way to power, who thought they could take from others without consequence. Where are they now? They rise fast. Sure, they gain influence, wealth, control. But then, piece by piece, their empire crumbles. Why? Because the foundation they built was rotten. That's the thing about cheating the system. It feels like it's working until it isn't. The cracks start small. Maybe it's paranoia, because deep down you know you're living on borrowed time. Maybe it's the people you wronged slowly turning against you. Maybe it's your own conscience, poisoning your ability to enjoy what you've taken. And then suddenly, it all collapses. That's karma. That's divine justice woven into the fabric of existence. You don't get to lie without being lied to. You don't get to betray without facing betrayal. You don't get to take shortcuts without eventually finding yourself lost. The world balances itself, whether you like it or not. And the longer you try to cheat it, the harder the consequences hit when they finally arrive. But here's the terrifying part. It doesn't just affect you. The damage spreads. Your choices, your corruption, it poisons everything around you. Your relationships, your legacy, even the people who trusted you. Because destruction isn't isolated. It spreads like wildfire. And when the reckoning comes, it doesn't just take you down, it takes everything you built along with it. So ask yourself, what are you doing today that you think you're getting away with? What lies are you telling yourself? What deals are you making with your own conscience? Convincing yourself that the ends justify the means, because those choices are shaping your future. And no matter how long it takes, no matter how high you climb, reality will catch up. Karma is patient. God is watching. And when the time comes, you won't just reap what you've sown. You'll reap far more than you ever expected. Look at history, really look at it. It's written in blood and betrayal, in the rise and fall of empires, in the stories of those who thought they could wield power without consequence. And every time, every single time, the pattern is the same. The corrupt rise, they tighten their grip, they convince themselves they are untouchable, and then, without fail, the ground beneath them cracks, the walls close in, and they are swallowed by the very destruction they created. Why? Because when you build something on deception, when you hold power through fear, when you take from others thinking you'll never have to give anything back, you set a trap for yourself. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually that trap springs shut. You can't escape the consequences of your own actions. That's not just some hopeful moral lesson. It's a fact. The world does not allow unchecked corruption to thrive indefinitely. It can't, because sooner or later the weight of those choices becomes too heavy. Look at the tyrants, the dictators, the corporate criminals, the manipulators. Where are they now? Dead, forgotten, disgraced. Or worse, living long enough to see everything they built turn to ash. Their names are cursed, their legacies rotted away by the very sins they thought would make them immortal. You can't beat the system. You can't cheat reality. Because reality is structured in such a way that it demands balance. It demands justice. And the terrifying part? It's usually their own doing that destroys them. The paranoia eats them alive. They push people too far. They burn too many promises. They burn too many bridges. And then, when they need help, when they're weak and exposed, there's no one left to save them. Because why would there be? They spent their whole lives making enemies instead of allies. They sowed fear instead of loyalty. They chose deception over truth, and in the end, the world simply gave them back exactly what they put in. This isn't just about history, it's about you. It's about the choices you're making every day. Are you building something real, something honest, something that can withstand the test of time? Or are you cutting corners, stepping on others, thinking that because you're getting away with it now, you'll get away with it forever? Because you won't. No one does. Karma is coming. God is watching. And when the time comes to reap what you've sown, you better pray that what you planted was worth harvesting. Time is patient. It doesn't rush. It doesn't forget. It watches, waits, and lets the consequences build until they're inescapable. That's what makes karma so terrifying. It doesn't always strike immediately. No, it allows people to believe they've won, that they've escaped justice, that they've somehow broken the fundamental laws of cause and effect. And then, when they least expect it, it arrives. Is the patient karma, I believe, says, this is why so many people deceive themselves. They commit a betrayal, they lie, they manipulate, and when nothing happens right away, they think, see, I got away with it, nothing came back to haunt me. But what they fail to realize is that consequences don't always work on their timeline. They work on reality's timeline. Think of it like this. Every action you take plants a seed, and just because the tree doesn't grow overnight doesn't mean it won't grow at all. A single act of dishonesty, a single betrayal, a single selfish decision, it may seem insignificant at first, but those seeds don't vanish. They take root, they spread, and one day they bloom into something monstrous, something too big to cut down, something that consumes everything in its path, including the person who planted it. This is why people wake up one day and wonder, how did my life get like this? They look around at the wreckage, the broken relationships, the ruined reputation, the loneliness, the distrust, and they convince themselves It just happened, that it was unfair, that they were just unlucky. No, it didn't just happen. It was built. It was earned. It was sown long ago. And now the harvest has arrived. And the worst part? When karma finally comes, it doesn't just match the crime, it amplifies it. That's the terrifying nature of time and consequence. What you send out into the world doesn't come back in equal measure, it comes back multiplied. If you've spread chaos, you don't just receive chaos in return, you receive tenfold chaos. If you've spread deception, you don't just get lied to, you lose all sense of truth itself. But here's the part most people ignore. If destruction compounds, so does redemption. If time works against those who act wrongly, it also works for those who act rightly. You may not see the rewards of your discipline today. You may not see the benefits of your integrity tomorrow, but they're growing, they're taking root, and one day, when you least expect it, you'll realize that the seeds of good you planted long ago have become an unshakable foundation beneath you. So be careful what you plant. Be patient with what you grow, because karma isn't just a force of punishment, it's a force of justice. And it will always make sure you reap exactly what you have sown. There's a profound truth in the idea that your actions, however small, are never without consequence. And this truth doesn't just apply to the bad, it applies to the good too. Too often, people focus on the idea of karma as a punishment, something that's coming to get them when they act wrongly. But it works in the opposite direction as well. Every time you act with integrity, every time you choose to be honest when it's easier to lie, every time you sacrifice for the good of others, every time you do what's hard instead of what's convenient, those seeds are being planted too. And while it might not seem like much at first, over time those actions accumulate into something powerful, something that will shape your future in ways you can't yet understand. This is the thing people forget about karma. It's not just retribution, it's reward too. The universe doesn't just take from you when you do wrong, it gives to you when you do right. It rewards discipline with strength, it rewards honesty with trust, it rewards sacrifice with fulfillment. And just like the bad, the good doesn't show up immediately. You won't always see the reward for doing the right thing today or tomorrow, but I promise you, it will come. That's the thing about the people who are able to build something of true value in this world. It's not that they were born special. It's not that they found some shortcut, some secret key to success. No, they simply built over time, brick by brick. They did the hard work. They faced the temptation to cheat, to cut corners, to lie, and they didn't. They held their ground, even when it felt like no one was watching, even when it felt like no one cared. And that's when the world started to bend toward them. You see, integrity doesn't just earn you respect, it creates respect. It doesn't just build trust, it multiplies it. Every time you stand by your word, even when it's difficult, even when you're tempted to break it, you set in motion a series of events that will bring you something far greater than any shortcut or momentary advantage. So yes, karma is coming, but it's not only about paying for your mistakes. It's about the harvest you will one day reap from the seeds you plant today. You don't just get back what you've done wrong, you get back what you've done right. Every act of honesty, every moment of hard work, every time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong. It's all going to come back to you, and when it does, it will be far more valuable, far more meaningful than anything you could have stolen or cheated your way into. So don't be discouraged if you don't see the rewards right away. Don't give up because the world isn't immediately rewarding your honesty, your integrity, your sacrifice. It's coming. God is watching. Karma is at work. And when the time comes, when that harvest finally arrives, you'll understand what it means to reap what you've truly sown. Every choice you make, no matter how small it seems at the time, plants a seed. And whether you realize it or not, that seed is growing. Right now, in the very moments of your life, decisions are being made. They're being made in your relationships, in your work, in the way you treat yourself, in the way you treat others. And while it may not feel like it, those decisions are shaping your future. What you choose to do today doesn't just disappear, it accumulates. It sets things in motion that will determine the course of your life. People often ignore this simple truth. They think that the little things don't matter, that the lie they tell the moment they slack off, the time they take advantage of someone or something, won't come back to haunt them. But that's not how it works. You don't plant a seed and simply forget about it. You might not see the tree the next day. You might not even see it next year. But eventually that tree will grow. And one day you'll look around and that tree will be there, standing tall, deeply rooted in the ground, with branches reaching out far beyond what you imagined. And what you planted will be evident for all to see. So ask yourself, what seeds are you planting right now? Are you planting seeds of respect, of hard work, of honesty? Or are you planting seeds of selfishness, laziness, or deceit? Every moment, every decision is an opportunity to choose what kind of future you want to create. You can choose to plant growth, or you can choose to plant destruction. You can choose to act with integrity, or you can choose to take the easy way out and cut corners. But understand this, whatever you choose, you will reap what you sow. The harvest will come. And here's the kicker. You can't fool the system. You can't plant poison and expect to harvest fruit. You can't plant dishonesty and expect trust. You can't plant laziness and expect success. The seeds you plant today will shape the world you live in tomorrow. So don't be fooled by the immediate rewards of shortcuts and dishonesty, because they won't last. And when the time comes for that harvest to arrive, you'll realize that what you planted wasn't worth the effort, wasn't worth the price you paid. But here's the good news. The opposite is true too. When you plant seeds of goodness, of perseverance, of integrity, when you do the hard work even when no one is watching, when you choose honesty over deceit, when you sacrifice for the greater good, those seeds are being planted in fertile soil. They're growing even when you can't see them. And one day you will stand tall, rooted in the strength of everything you've built, watching as your life unfolds into something meaningful, something true. So think about your choices today. Think about the seeds you're planting. Because in the end, your future is not determined by luck, by fate, or by some mysterious force beyond your control. It's determined by what you plant. And whether you like it or not, karma is coming. You will reap what you sow. There is a profound inevitability to karma. You can't escape it. You can't outrun it. No matter how much you deceive yourself or others, no matter how much you convince yourself that you've gotten away with something, the truth always catches up. You might not see it now. You might think you've outsmarted the system, but eventually the truth will reveal itself. And it will reveal itself in ways that you never expected, in ways that will leave you standing there, confronted by the consequences of your actions, wishing you had been different, wishing you had made better choices. But here's the thing most people don't understand. Karma is not just about punishment. It's not some vengeful force out to get you. No. Karma is the embodiment of balance. It's the universe's way of bringing everything back into harmony. And when you act with dishonesty, selfishness, and manipulation, you are tipping the scales. You are creating an imbalance, and the universe, the system, will always correct itself. It will always return to balance. And when it does, you will be the one who feels the weight of it. Now, there's something else here that people overlook. Karma doesn't just punish you for bad deeds. It rewards you for good ones too. This isn't a simple law of retribution where you only pay for your mistakes. No, it's a law of return. If you plant goodness, you will receive goodness. If you sacrifice for others, the world will return that sacrifice in ways you can't predict. If you put in the effort, even when it seems like no one is watching, the rewards will come. Often when you least expect them, but they will come. And it's the consistency of this principle that makes karma so undeniable. You see, the system isn't swayed by your excuses. It doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't care about what you think you deserve. It responds to what you do. If you make a mistake, you'll face the consequences. If you choose the easy path, you'll be met with the fruits of your laziness. If you act dishonestly, you'll eventually face the chaos that dishonesty creates. The truth will emerge, the system will correct itself, you will reap exactly what you've sown. But this isn't something to be afraid of. It's something to be embraced. It means that every choice you make, every action you take, every seed you plant has meaning. It's a reminder that you are in control of your own destiny. You are the one shaping your future. You are the one determining whether you'll reap a harvest of growth, success, and fulfillment, or whether you'll harvest the bitter fruits of neglect, deceit, and chaos. So, take responsibility for your life. Take responsibility for your actions. Understand that what you do matters. It matters more than you think. And remember that karma is coming. It's coming for all of us, whether we're ready for it or not. It's not just about divine retribution. It's about the undeniable force that will ensure you reap exactly what you've sown. So sow wisely. Be the person you know you can be. Because in the end, you're the one who will face the harvest. And when that time comes, you'll want to know that what you've planted was worth it. So understand this truth. Karma is inevitable. It's not some abstract concept or a distant, unfathomable force. It is woven into the very fabric of existence. Every action, every word, every thought you put out into the world has weight. It will come back to you. Whether it takes years, whether it's immediate or delayed, whether it arrives as a whisper or a thunderous roar, it will come. You cannot escape it. You cannot hide from it. Now, that should terrify you, yes, but it should also empower you. Because karma is not just about the consequences of wrong choices, it's about the rewards of right ones. It's about the quiet, persistent accumulation of good actions, good intentions, and the discipline to stay true to your path. It's about the power you have in every moment to decide what you will sow, knowing that someday, somehow, you will reap the harvest of those choices. The most important thing you can do is take responsibility. Own your actions. Own the seeds you plant. Because in the end, you are the architect of your own fate. You have the power to shape your future with the choices you make today. So stop lying to yourself. Stop pretending that shortcuts will lead to lasting success. Understand that the universe doesn't work like that. It works in harmony, in balance. If you want to harvest peace, trust, and fulfillment, you must sow them first. Karma is coming. God is watching. And when that time comes for you to reap what you've sown, you'll either stand with pride, knowing you've built something good, something true, something that will endure, or you'll stand in regret, realizing that the choices you made were the very things that brought your downfall. The choice is yours. The seeds you plant today will define the life you live tomorrow. So choose wisely.